Good morning and welcome to the September 6th regular meeting of the Mason County Board of Commissioners. We'll call this meeting to order. Will you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Delighted to see such a large group today. Appreciate you being here. Can we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner District 1, Randy Netherland.
I'm here.
Commissioner District 2, Tim Sheldon.
I'm here as well.
Commissioner District 3, Terry Jeffrey.
Here. Correspondence and organizational business. Can you please report the correspondence received by the County Commission?
The Liquor Control Board sent applications for Mason General Hospital Foundation, Shelton High School Touchdown Club, Bent Vine Brew Company, and Belfair Grocery. Janet O'Connor sent a letter regarding Wave Cable, and Hood Canal Improvement sent a letter regarding East Dalby Road repair.
Thank you. Item 4.2, presentation of 2017 budget requests. Auditor Karen Herr, or we will have our finance manager, Leo Kim. Welcome, Leo.
Good morning. Leo Kim, Chief Finance Manager. We are here to present the 2017 preliminary budget to Mason County. Over the last couple months, we have been compiling the data for the preliminary budget. I would like to thank all of the staff of the Auditor's Office as well as all of the departments for partnering together to complete this project. We have performed limited auditing, analysis, and editing to the data submitted by the departments in relationship to the amounts requested. However, we have done extensive analysis of BAR's coding and have made several corrections, which has always been and will continue to be an involved process as the State Auditor's Office continuously requires changes. Our objective was to ensure that the budgets were balanced, transfers in and out equaled, and the budgets complied with BAR's as well as GAAP reporting, which are basically the state and federal rules that we follow in relation to budgets, accounting, and financial reporting. We are submitting 3 groups of reports. The first group is a series of reports and graphs providing various trend information. The second and third groups are the detailed budgets for current expense departments and for non-current expense funds, also known as special funds in Mason County. These reports are available on the auditor's website as well as a limited supply of hard copies. The hard copies will be distributed after the presentation. The preliminary budget is really only a starting point or the beginning of the budget cycle. Over the course of the next several months, the budgets will be modified during budget workshops. 2017 estimated revenue for current expense funds exclusive of estimated beginning fund balance is approximately $30 million, an 8% decrease. Expenditure requests are approximately $38 million, 3.4% increase, leaving $8 million to be analyzed. Current expense fund revenues consist mostly of taxes, 58%, intergovernmental revenues, 14%, and charges for services, 12%. Expenditures are comprised primarily of salaries and benefits of 71% and services, 15%. General government and public safety make up the bulk of the functions of current expense. Are there any questions?
I have one for you, sir, if I might.
Please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I don't have anything to look at here, but I tried to write it down in a hurry, as you mentioned it, Leo. So you're projecting our revenue will be down $3 million, and that's 8%?
We're actually not projecting anything.
Okay.
We're only compiling the data from the departments. We didn't do any budgetary analysis.
Okay, I understand. So, but you're saying it's going to be down 8% revenue?
That's what the information submitted, compiled.
Okay, that's down 8%, and expenses are projected to be up 3.4%.
Right.
Okay, that's quite an imbalance. So
Right. It's just a starting
I know
point.
it's a beginning, but I just want to make that point. It's quite an imbalance to overcome.
Okay.
Please.
Is it the projected or the requested?
It's just requested from the
Requested.
departments. The departments can request, whatever they like. It still just needs to comply with BAR's and GAAP accounting. So we don't tell the departments what they can submit and what they can't submit, as long as it complies with accounting rules.
Well, then the next question is, let's review what our budget request was to the departments.
Let's see, we had asked people to keep it at a status quo, did we not? I have a copy of my budget, of our budget instructions.
Yes.
Yes, keep it status quo, anticipated a 4% decrease in revenues, and I'm not sure where that changed.
So in that budget letter, it's actually a little bit ambiguous, because it says in one part, it says keep it status quo, but in another part, it says increase, decrease. So it was a little ambiguous.
Yeah, well, there was the increase for the contractual obligations.
Commercial obligations.
Yeah, and stuff on the wages
And a statement that identified, because of the expected revenue decreases, that the commission would probably not be entertaining requests for additional staff. Does that concur with what you recall?
Well, I didn't vote for it, but I recall it was more of a status quo budget, and one of the other things we're looking at is we now have an 8.1% unemployment rate in this county. That's one of the highest in the west side of the state. So it's going to be a hard budget to write. Very hard.
Could you, do you have the numbers available to share with us of the $30 million expected revenues? How much of that is current expense revenues, i.e. our property tax, anticipated sales tax, and excise
I would
tax?
have to analyze it.
Okay.
I can get back with you.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Mr. Kim?
Thank you very much, Leo.
All right,
Thank you very much. We look forward to seeing the hard data. Next item is item 4.3, a proclamation declaring National Preparedness Month. Oh, there it is. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.
So as Mr. Kim shared, these numbers and this information will be available on the auditor's website. Limited copies, hard copies available at the front desk. And we have a tentative schedule of workshops with each of the departments and each of the funds throughout the month of September and October, with the anticipation of being able to wrap up a amended budget by the end, no later than hopefully the second week of November. So we have the proclamation of a National Preparedness Month, and I will go ahead and read this proclamation. Whereas emergencies in Mason County can happen unexpectedly in communities just like yours, to people just like you. And whereas the entire Mason County community can take actions to become prepared to respond and recover from any natural or man-made disaster, no matter how big or small. The more people who are prepared, the quicker our community will recover. And whereas Mason County first responders may not always be able to reach you quickly in an emergency or disaster, and the most important step you can take in helping them is being able to take care of yourself and those in your care for at least a short period of time following an incident. Whereas during National Preparedness Month, September 2016, community members are encouraged to take time to prepare yourself and those in your care for emergencies and disasters that can impact our neighborhoods for days at a time. And whereas Mason County community members who are prepared to meet any emergencies or disasters can be a positive influence on their neighbors by sharing the preparedness story and encouraging friends, family, and coworkers to be prepared too, now therefore we, the Board of County Commissioners of Mason County, do hereby proclaim September 2016 as National Preparedness Month and urge our fellow citizens to make sure that you and your family are prepared for an emergency by 1. Prepare a disaster supply kit, and 2. Create a family emergency plan, and 3. Know the hazard. Can I have our emergency manager, Ross McDowell, please come to the podium and I'll present this. Ross, I know you and your staff work hard to the community. how do you prepare a kit? How do you be trained to maybe be more of this resource to the neighbors? We appreciate that. And you have been a tremendous resource to our people in the community who try to be prepared.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. This is something that seems like we just finished our Cascadia Rising exercise that we did with all of our first responders and secondary responders. That this is just by nature, the next part of that is to, and it seems like we're hammering people this our message, but that's what we need to do. We need to make sure that people are prepared. We need to remember that our first responders are also mostly, a lot of them are volunteers, especially for our fire department. So they need to take care of their families too before they can come out and help everybody else. So the more that we're prepared as citizens, the better we are to make sure that we can respond, recover, and go on with life. It might be a little bit different than what it was before the disaster, but being able to save your life is important. Lives first. Thanks. Thank you very much. Thank you, Commissioners.
Is there any other organizational business to come before the commission?
No, there isn't.
Thank you. That takes us to item number 5. This is our open forum for citizen input and opportunity to address the commission on any items that are not on the agenda. If you'd like to address the commission, please raise your hand. You'll be recognized. Come to the podium, state your name, and if your home address if you'd like. Ma'am, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You?
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Kristen Fabry, and I'm the director of the Mason County Historical Society Museum. I've been there a little over a year, and in that time I've been looking at our museum programs and getting up to speed. We have a lot of exciting things going on, and at the same time looking at some of the unique challenges that face our museum. So this morning I would like to talk about our museum's need for land to expand for a larger heritage museum. Go ahead and read this letter. County Commissioners, I'd like to make an appeal as the director of Mason County Historical Society for land to build a new heritage museum. Since the closing of our Fairgrounds Museum, much of our collection is in storage and is inaccessible and unable to be displayed at our current facility. Many Mason County residents would like to see the items they have donated displayed, and right now we have no way of doing so. We have 4 off-site storage units, 3 of which we pay for every year. We cannot apply for grant money to cover the cost of storage as it's considered operating costs. We operate on a very tight budget, so this puts a large strain on our museum. As part of our mission to collect, preserve, and publish the history of Mason County, we strive to provide the utmost care and best stewardship for the items donated to our museum. Unfortunately, due to current space and budget restrictions, we're not able to do so. Within our current downtown museum, we cannot fit any more archival drawers, filing cabinets, or display cases that would allow us to properly organize, preserve, and display the items that have been donated to us. This is a disservice to the community. We need a large enough space to be able to organize and preserve donated items correctly in a temperature-controlled environment. As our programs expand, we have more and more people walking in the door. We have about 3,500 on average people coming into our museum every year.
3,500 per what?
Per year.
Per year, thank you.
The acquisition of land for Mason County Historical Society use would allow us to apply for grants to build a heritage museum where we can display the larger items we have in storage, such as logging and farming equipment, appliances, and vehicles. We have these stored all around town right now, and there's no way we can fit them in our yard or inside the museum. It would also allow for us to accept larger items from the community that we can't currently house. I get a lot of phone calls that I have, an antique piece of logging equipment, and right now we have no more place in storage nor at the museum to where we can take such items. A heritage museum displaying these items along Highway 101 would be a tourist draw to the community, which many other businesses would benefit. There's been some talk of selling some of the county land, and I'll show you in a moment the map, the land that we're asking for, possibly to an organization interested in building a hotel. The promise of a tourist attraction like a Mason County Heritage Museum down the road would only increase interest in the property to be sold. Our museum offers local historical and tourist information and would be a great stop for anybody visiting the area. I ask that you please consider the importance of preserving Mason County history and approve our request for land along Highway 101 for the betterment of our community. And I've included, this is a plan that Mike Fredson on our board drew up, but this was years ago. So this is a beginning idea of what we would want the museum to look like, although we wouldn't be able to get formal plans until we knew how much land we had, and there's costs in providing a full plan as well. And then I provided a map of the land that we're asking for.
So you're
And I'll
asking for
show
the
you.
entire 51 acres?
No.
I thought there was something else that you considered.
No, we had originally asked for 10 acres, although we are negotiable, and that would be ideal. But the land that we're looking at, thank you. The land that we're asking for is in this corner here, near Highway 101. It'd be a great stop. We just required Paul and Babe. They could sit outside the museum, some of the larger logging equipment. So this would be, as people pass through, they could stop at the museum. That would be our ideal location.
And that's at the intersection of Highway,
101 and West Dayton Airport Road.
okay, Highway 102, so, right, intersection of those two state highways. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for the request? So I have reached out to our Economic Development Council, who is working to secure or to encourage a hotelier or two to site hotel here in Mason County. As I'm sure you've been told by members of your board, we're also very keen that this site potentially could be a good site for a commercial activity such as a hotel. And she had promised to send me some documentation, or at least a letter that would state her thought that the two could be complementary uses of the land. We have currently, we're hoping to have that land appraised. We truly do not know the value of the land, though we know it is very valuable. There are other folks in the community who are encouraging working together also regarding an event center. Mr. Ron Redmond has sent us a proposal for a different piece of land with a kind of a hint that Historical Society would be an organization that could work with him. And I'm curious whether folks have been doing any kind of reaching out to some of these other organizations that are also looking for some county land as well. Has there been a synergy? Has there been any attempt to come together and present something that is more complementary to everybody's needs?
We don't have a plan with other organizations at this point, although we're open to speaking with other organizations to see what might fit everyone's needs.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, can I just ask
Please.
a question? I really appreciate the presentation, Kristen. It's nice to see something in writing. And I just want to ask, how many members do you have?
Right now, we have about 475 members that we send newsletters
That's
to.
families.
That's families, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, over 1,000 members. Well, I know that you've come before the board several times, and I've been tried to be very supportive of what you want to do. I think that, sometimes in Mason County, we always talk about what ifs, but, the land that the county has there has no potential if we don't do anything with it. And I was instrumental in trading that property for the county shops. Traded, basically. We traded that with Mankey. It did belong to Washington State University at one time, that piece of property. It was a trust for, very kind of an odd trust, scientific trust. But Mankey obtained it from, with a trade with DNR, and then we, the county, traded it in 2005 for the old shop on Johns Prairie Road. So it's been sitting there since that time. So while I appreciate the effort to find cooperative groups and all, sometimes a group just has to make a plan and go do it. Because we can wait and wait, and the artifacts and all those donations that you have are going to continue to deteriorate. Those people are going to continue to drive past an empty property at that intersection. And as for a hotel, you know, the Port of Shelton has talked about a potential hotel for a long time along their frontage of Highway 101, which is prime spot for a commercial development. And a port is in the business of economic development. So I would hope that a hotel could be established. The port property would be fantastic for that. They've talked about it for a long time. They have sewer and water there. But I just want to, before I leave, you know, it's going to be a couple months and won't be a commissioner any longer, but I just want to take this opportunity to say again that I think this is an excellent idea. You travel around our Western Washington. I was in Jefferson County this weekend. They have tremendous facilities. They're a much smaller county than we are. And Historical Society in this state have always taken a leading role in tourism development, job development, and just preserving the fantastic history that they have. And we are not reaching our potential yet, in my opinion. And we can get there. But it takes a piece of property and it takes an action on a board. And I've been long time, as you know, the other commissioners know, long time advocate for taking some action and doing something that is proactive for the Historical Society, because they've proven to be a very effective, well-supported, well-respected organization throughout our county. So, thank you. Thank you for listening.
So Kristen, just so you know, you're a movie star now. I saw you on that video.
It's my debut.
She's the face of the.
Okay, so I assume we have some follow-up requests, so we will go to you later. So, go ahead, Mr. Bloomfield.
Steve Bloomfield. I am on the board of the Historical Society, and Kristen laid out a proposal there, and we do have a Plan B. And you're probably all familiar with the logged off portion of next to Public Works. There's approximately a 300-foot frontage by 1,000-foot deep. It's about 7 acres roughly. They're 6.92 whatever acres.
102, correct?
No, it's on
101.
101.
Yeah.
Right next to Public Works, it would be. We got her upside down
This
here.
section right here.
Yeah, it's this section right here that's been logged.
Is that across, you mean across the highway from?
No, across Public Works Drive.
Oh, okay.
It's on the same side as
Yes.
Public Works and there. Actually, Banky owns this across the
Yeah.
way here. And we would, we could do that, use that frontage there, would still leave this for development of whatever. And it's already had a step taking for clearing of the property. It's still a stump patch, but that's a lot less than worrying about getting it logged and getting down the road. Also still leaves that portion there. Okay, that being said, we would like to also, the proposal Mr. Redmond made and others over the course of the years has been to develop that out by the racetrack, which is really not in line with what our mission is. We had the museum at the fairgrounds, and that really wasn't very successful because people couldn't go there every day. They didn't know it was there. It couldn't be opened every day. This here is right on the road frontage. People stop. We had 3,500 people last year. A large part of that 3,500 people was people from out of state, and many of them were from out of country. they stop, they look at this stuff. They want to see it. They want to see the heritage of the area they're in. That's why they're here. They're looking at what we've got. They're enjoying it. It's part of their experience. And they will be back. They will be back. They come again, they see it, they'll promote it, or they stop, they want to get something to eat, they want to spend the night. It all plays into that hotel, restaurant type theme in that rest of that property. It's a very defined piece of property we're asking for. It has water, power, high-speed internet, very close to the site. We don't have to cross 101 with it. We don't have to make more exits off 101. Those are very expensive, very hard to get. And this here has an approach from either end, and we can, with signage, make it approachable for everybody. I don't know if Annette wants to expand off that, but.
I'd like to ask you a question. You have some knowledge on some of this stuff. I'm sure that you've already looked, that parcel belongs to Public Works, so we'd have to.
That's a Public Works parcel.
So we'd have to do some kind of trading in order to make that happen or make that work.
There's some boundary line adjustment could be taken there.
I want to just let you know that I myself, one of my greatest issues that I've had is the value of the property we've been talking about. You know, because the people of Mason County own that property. And our job is to make sure that we get the highest value and the best use that we possibly can out of it. That's part of our job. Although the Commissioner Sheldon and I appreciate his sentiment about the port doesn't sell land. They only lease land. And hotels are more likely to build on land that they own. They're not looking to build on land that they lease and stuff. I myself, this is a pretty good idea, and I'm willing to have that conversation. I just wanted you to know that. I am willing to, that makes more sense to me, because one of the things that people have to understand when it comes to the value of the particular lands that we're talking about, it's one of the only places on the, outside of the city limits basically, that has all the amenities. It has the ability for sewer, water, and everything right there. That's why it's so rare, and that's what makes it so valuable. So to be on the other side of that corner, because you can also imagine a corner is probably the most valuable piece of property you're going to own. The corner of two highways is even, again, the most valuable piece of property you're going to own. This, to me, makes a little more sense, so I appreciate you bringing it up. Do you want to see any more of that? Or?
No, that's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just need to see it close up.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. We do appreciate that. We do appreciate the consideration. We will work in any way we can forward to get a more detailed plan, but we need property before we can get into the specifics of just how many square feet of building we can create and that type of thing. We need to know where we're at. If it's an acre, it pretty well limits your building. You can't do anything. But with 7 acres, we could put up some logging equipment. We might be able to erect a tower there. In fact, we might even make a deal with Mankey's across the street and have a gateway on both sides of the road. We're stopping traffic, folks. We're getting people to stop in Shelton. That's one of the big problems that we've had over the years is there's not enough signage on 101. People don't stop. They bypass the community. This stops them. They start thinking about it. They start looking at it. And then they start enjoying what we have. We have a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McGee.
Thank you, Commissioner Jeffries. Good morning, Commissioners. Annette McGee, 1961 Southeast Cole Road. I am president of the Historical Society, and here today are several of the board of directors. You met Steve Bloomfield already, and you met our director, Kristen. We have Charles Fisher, Ray Kimball sitting there, Dave Daly, and Vern Honstein as well, that are in full support of what's been requested here. First, I would like to thank Commissioner Sheldon for his remarks on the fact that this is needed, and we are definitely, you can't imagine the number of phone calls that Kristen receives during the week that we do have something big to donate. Where do we put it? We can't put it. We need a place. square footage that Steve talked about on the land. We need the land before we could actually come up with a real formal, that's a rough sketch of what we have, but we want to make a heritage museum on it. Well, I appreciate your comments. I would like to set the record straight, though, and I hope it's not in the minutes from the last time that I appeared here, that I was asking for money for buying land. I'm not asking for money. Mr. Budget Director, whatever you are, or Auditor and Commissioners, all we're asking for is land that the commissioners are in charge of, that the county owns, the people's land. And I do want to put that straight, and please check your minutes when you approve them, that doesn't say I was asking for money on this. This is appropriate. I'd like to echo what Mr. Bloomfield said as far as the need, and as far as the thing that really bothers me is the fact, I keep hearing the value of the land, the value of the land. There isn't anything more valuable than our heritage. And to be able to display our heritage would make the surrounding land even more valuable, because people would be stopping, as Mr. Bloomfield has said. This is very, very important. You talk about getting the highest value. You can get your highest value if you can cooperate with the Historical Society and let us go ahead, let us have some land so that we can go ahead with concrete plans. You asked for plans, Mrs. Jeffries. Commissioner Jeffries, we gave you plans.
Well, actually, I was asking for plans of where on the property, what the ingress, egress would be, how much property, that sort of thing, so that when somebody, a hotelier potentially wanted to come, we could say, but this is out of there, and how would it potentially work, especially on ingress and egress, those types of issues. Where would the stub out be for the sewer? Where would the stub out be for the water? Those types of conceptual plans.
Thank you very much.
And Ms. McGee, I want to clarify, to me, I'm sorry, but land is money.
Land is money.
Yeah, so, we have to take it, look at the very best and biggest. We can't just give up a bunch of money and not think it all the way through. And even if we were to discuss that other parcel, that's still very expensive road frontage on Highway 101. It's very valuable. It's not as valuable as that corner, of course. But also, if we were to utilize that property, losing that corner loses a lot of value for anybody who wanted to come in and purchase it if the county does not need it. But it is valuable, and we are supposed to watch the money.
I'm not here to argue with you on that, Commissioner, because you have your opinions as a real estate person, and I have my opinion, and other people, the citizens have their opinion of the fact that a heritage museum could create a lot more value as far as land is concerned. I thank you for this opportunity to appear in front of you.
Madam Chair, I'd just like to make another quick comment, if I might.
Please.
I'd just like to reiterate, Commissioner Netherland, you're a realtor. Okay. The county has owned that property since 2005. It sat right there. Now, the Public Works building has been, I think, a very successful building there, a very successful spot for them to access the highway and the new shops, and it's been a great improvement. But the rest of the property is sat right there. As for a hotel, hotels do build on leased land. Across from the SeaTac Airport, all those hotels are on long-term leases. Every one of them are on long-term leases. The Polson Museum down in Grace Harbor, I think the society is going to go down and visit them. Extremely successful. People stop all the time to see what's there at the old home. The yard is filled with fantastic equipment. The displays are wonderful. The attraction is huge. And as Ms. McGee says, when you have an attraction, then things build around it. But without that attraction, we're just going to keep talking about a piece of vacant land. And last item I'll say, as for Mr. Ron Redmond's proposal, he wrote a letter. Big deal. I like to see organizations, and this organization has a mission, and I think you're going to get there, hopefully. I think it's going to take a lot of work, but I think you do, I believe, have the people behind you here in the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to address the commission on any item not on the agenda? Mr. Winters, please.
Good morning, my name's Neil Winders. I'm a director for Mason County Friends of the Parks, and I'm here on behalf of Friends of the Parks. Gotta put my big eyes on. You know what I'm talking about. When I played Little League Baseball growing up, I remember looking out at the signs hanging out in the outfield. They were community businesses that had volunteered their time and donated their supplies to help build the fields. And in return, the signs provided community recognition. This was my simple and perhaps naive hope when I helped form Mason County Friends of the Park in an effort to work with the county to realize an RCO grant that would provide Fields 6 and 7 with year-round artificial surfacing at the Mason County Recreation Area. Back in 2012, when the RCO grant was first submitted, the county was still reeling from lost revenues following the 2008 financial collapse, and we all know that that actually impacted the entire nation. Yet the county was brave enough to go forward with the RCO grant, providing half of the matching grant fund and asking that the Parks Department work with the community to match the other half. The amount was somewhere around $160,000. In January of 2014, I was honored to begin a term as a Parks Advisory Board member and began learning about the process of grants, parks, operations, county operations, and many of the relationships that the Parks Department had with state agencies such as the RCO, WWRP, YAF, PRTPO, choose your favorite acronym. It became apparent early on in the MCRA Field 6 and 7 project, after approaching various businesses in the community, that the idea of a direct donation of materials to help build these county parks, it was not well received. But we learned that if a 501c3 were created, that donations could be accepted by the nonprofit and receipted for tax purposes, and then local businesses would be more open to providing materials and in-kind donations, thus satisfying the community requirements portion. In June of 2014, in June of 2015, 4 members of the Parks Advisory Board decided to take the step and create Mason County Friends of the Parks. I drafted the mission statement, the articles of incorporation, the bylaws, conflict of interest document, and then I began the arduous journey of the paperwork required by the state of Washington to file for a business license, set up bank accounts, and the additional mountains of paperwork required by the federal government to file for a tax-exempt status. This was all done with volunteered time and all out-of-pocket expenses. In January of 2016, Mason County Friends of the Park was recognized by the federal government as a nonprofit organization and awarded tax-exempt status. All this was done in an effort to fulfill the community portion of the agreement made by the Parks Department to the commissioners to make MCRA Field 6 and 7 a reality. All this so that we could help the county get some crushed rock, a few yards of concrete, some lumber to build dugouts for the kids. Now, as we're finally ready to break ground, and after extensions on the RCO grant, after lining up donors, Mason County Friends of the Park received a 9-page memorandum of understanding from the county. This document is indeed a legal masterpiece written with great legalese. It contains donor requirements, confidentiality clauses, patent and copyright infringement clauses, indemnity clauses, and additional clauses that cover disputes, arbitration. It has requirements for millions of dollars of insurance coverage, with 2 pages alone in Exhibit A on the specifics of the insurance required. This insurance requirement comes at a cost of about $3,000 a year. And in my way of thinking, that's just too much to ask. All we wanted to do was help. All we wanted to do is let the community be a part of this effort to make better ball fields for the kids. It seems excessive to ask the community to go through the 7 labors of Hercules using their own time and monies just to be allowed to provide a donation to the county. At this point, I'm saying that Mason County Friends of the Park has done everything within their power to work in good faith with Mason County to satisfy this agreement between the Parks Department and the commissioners, but we can no longer support the effort, and we are therefore withdrawing any further assistance on the MCRA 6 and 7 project. Here's a copy of the memorandum of understanding. So, any questions?
Commissioners?
I'd like to ask Frank when he's done.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Just to let you know that that did not come before the commission, I don't believe.
It's still in draft form.
It's in draft form to review and to negotiate.
Most other counties just put in a whole harmless clause.
I don't know that that's true. Okay, please.
Yeah, I just was, because I hadn't, if you don't mind, because I have not seen the document myself. So,
As I've mentioned, it's still in draft form.
okay. Well, why would you give it to them before we saw it, though? I'm a little confused on that. We probably should have seen it first.
The risk pool has seen it, and the attorney has seen it, and that's probably a wise choice to go forward, is to have the commissioners review it prior to submission for future documents.
And we'll be briefing on it, I'm sure.
Correct.
Thank you.
So there's a certain level of standardization that's happening right now with our contracts to protect the county better in the contracts. Past experience has shown us that there's certain language that when it's omitted, we don't have any recourse going back to it. The standardization in some cases may not always be appropriate, in that some clauses maybe need to come out depending on the circumstances, but we have had some pushback with some of our other contractors regarding the standardization of what was not a handshake, so to speak, but they were custom drawn up contracts without very essential pieces that our risk pool likes to see. And these things are for protection, so it's a negotiation regarding what needs to be in there and what doesn't. Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to address the commission at this time? Mr.
I
Watson?
have a question, madam. This is a little out of sequence for me. This is Conley Watson. Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. I live at 140 Fox Lane, and I was reading the agenda. Have you opened that up yet?
Mr. Watson, we are at item number 5, the open for citizen input to speak to the commission on any items not on the agenda.
Okay, this will be on the agenda, so I
Then
will-
you might want to, is it under item number 8?
It's, yes.
Okay, then we'll have
Thank
that
you.
time. Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to address the commission on any items not on the agenda? Thank you. Hearing none, then I would move on to item number 6, the adoption of the agenda.
Madam Chair, I move for the adoption of the agenda as presented.
Second the motion, Madam Chair.
Moved and second to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Approval of the minutes.
Madam Chair, we have several sets of briefing minutes to approve, and I would move their approval, August 8th, 15th, and 22nd, and our regular meeting minutes, move for their approval, August 16, 23, and the 23rd of August as well, 2016.
I'll second.
It's moved and second to approve the August 8th, 15th, and 22nd briefing minutes, and the July 26th and August 16th and 23rd, 2016 regular meeting minutes. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. This takes us to item number 8. This is the approval of the action agenda. We have 10 items on the action agenda that are intended to be approved in one motion and one vote. We will read through each of these items. Following the reading, anybody in the audience has an opportunity to ask any questions on any of the items on the agenda. You also have an opportunity to ask that any of the items be removed for separate testimony and a vote. I will read items 8.1 through 8.3. Commissioner Sheldon, would you please read items 8.4 through 8.7? And Commissioner Netherland, 8.8 through 8.10. Item 8.1, approval to appoint James Thomas to the Planning Advisory Commission for term ending July 31st, 2018. 8.2, approval to appoint Aiden Wielander and Leanna Krotzer to the Mason County Parks and Trails Advisory Board for terms ending September 6th, 2020. 8.3, approval to award $450,000 for 2016 for the Belfair Sewer from the Rural County Sales and Use Tax Fund .09 for the annual Phase 1 capital project-related debt service.
8.4, approval to award the Mason County Historical Society $5,000 from the Summer 2016 Heritage Grant to preserve historical Forest Festival film on DVD for public viewing. 8.5, approval of the Veterans Assistance Fund applications for housing, $1,000 as recommended by the Veterans Service Office and per Resolution 35-16. 8.6, approval for the board to authorize equipment rental and revolving ER&R to declare certain county vehicles as surplus and dispose of the vehicles at the Washington State Surplus Sales. And 8.7, approval for the board to set a public hearing for October 4, 2016 at 9:30 a.m. to consider a speed limit change on Old Belfair Highway mileposts 0 through .6 from 45 miles per hour to 35 miles per hour.
Madam Chair, item number 8.8, approval for the board to set two public hearings for Tuesday, October 4th, 2016 at 9:30 a.m. to receive public comment on the following. Number 1, 2017 Annual Construction Program. Number 2, 2017 through 2022 6-year TIP, Transportation Improvement Program. Item number 8.9, approval of warrants, Claims Clearing Fund, warrants number 8041930 through 8042185 for the amount of $1,626,564.29 for a total of $1,626,564.29. Claims Clearing Fund year-to-date total $22,239,141.21. Direct deposit year-to-date total $8,160,210.40. Salary Clearing Fund year-to-date total $8,719,355.05. Item number 8.10, approval for the board to set a public hearing on October 4th, 2016 at 9:30 a.m. to consider a speed limit change on Agate Road milepost 0 through milepost number 1 mile from 45 miles per hour to 35 miles per hour. That's it.
Is there anybody in the audience that has any questions on any of the items just read?
Yeah, the Heritage Grant, it says to,
Just say 8.4.
oh yeah, 8.4, it says
We'd like to discuss 8.4.
Yeah.
Would you like it removed for a separate vote then?
Pardon me?
You'd like it removed for a separate vote?
like that language.
I think so.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions on any items on the action agenda from the audience? Mr. Watson, do you?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Conley Watson, and I live at 140 Fox Lane out in Hartstein. And I have a question on 8.2. Is this the same as Mason County Parks and Trail Advisory as Commissioner is putting on the November 8th ballot?
No. This is a standing Parks Advisory Board. This has been in existence for I don't know how long, but we have a current Parks Advisory Board, and we have some vacancies on it. And this is to advise our support services department and in the division of facilities and parks planning on issues such as the parks plan, long-range parks plan, and other items related to parks and county budget.
This is related into state parks also?
No.
Because there are 10 state parks and their admission is 0.
Yeah, they have their own Parks Advisory Board.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that had any questions on any of the items just read?
Madam Chair? Second.
Comment?
Please, only if it was something that needed to be pulled. If you'd like to pull it for testimony, we can do that.
Don't need to pull.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
I have a question on 8.2. That I understand what you said, and I understand what Mr. Watson was requiring, but whatever to ask. But would this board then dissolve if that park plan passed, and you would have it Parks Commission?
Please.
No. One thing to please bear in mind, the Metropolitan Parks District, if created, is its own governmental entity. It has nothing to do with the county. This is a group of people that represent the citizens aspect of the county's interest in parks only. So, if they're created, they create their own and do their own thing.
There's a tremendous, there's a tremendous amount of questions asked about, should this Metropolitan Parks District initiative pass, what happens next? I believe that, and this is my personal opinion, what happens next is there's a year of planning, discussion among that governmental entity and the Mason County Board of Commissioners about the potential transfer of properties, what will happen regarding a Parks Advisory Board, what would happen regarding any of the current grants that are being accepted by the county on some other of the parks. So and this is my own personal belief, is that I would anticipate at least a year of negotiation and working with the Mason County Board of Commissioners, with this Parks Commission, to move forward. How shall we move forward as far as the assets, the plans as they are now, and the current grants that we have in our possession or in our authority. Is there any other questions regarding any of the items on the agenda?
Madam Chair, I have a question on 8.3.
Mm-hmm.
In our briefing materials, it says this request is for $450,000 per year for 2016 through 2018. Additional requests are very likely necessary for the years beyond 2018. But on our action agenda today, it says that, as I read it, it is $450,000 for the year 2016. So are the briefing materials incorrect, or is the action agenda?
So the action agenda is correct. We had a briefing regarding this before it comes on, as the commission, or as the public may know. We always brief these items before they come onto the action agenda. During the briefing, we asked that this award be only for the year of 2016.
So the briefing materials are inaccurate.
Yeah, so they're old, and they hadn't been updated based on the discussion we had at our briefing.
All right.
So this approval, this action we would be taking today would be to pay the 2016 debt service, $450,000 of it coming from the .09. Commissioner, do you have any questions? Any other questions? Then I will ask if anybody would like to have any of the items removed for a separate vote. Item 8.4 will be removed for some clarification and discussion. Are there any other items that anybody would like to have separate or pulled off of the action agenda for a separate vote?
Madam Chair, I'd like to have a separate vote for item 8.3.
Okay.
Is it proper for me to ask a question about 8.3?
Please.
Well, we
Well,
will.
Yeah, we will have a separate discussion or
After,
testimony. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Madam Chair, I move for the approval of the action agenda as presented with the withdrawing of item number 8.3 and 8.4, which will be set up for separate consideration.
I'll second that motion, Madam Chair.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the action agenda today, items 8.1 through 8.10, except for items 8.3 and 8.4, which will be removed for separate consideration. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Item 8.3, approval to award $450,000 for 2016 for the Belfair Sewer from the Rural County Sales and Use Tax Fund .09 for the annual Phase 1 capital project-related debt service. Mr. Pinter, would you be prepared to address this item?
The commission was briefed back in June in regards to the submission to the community in regards to the utilization of .09 funds for the Belfair sewer. The request was for years 2016 through 2018. The ports and the community responded back, or actually they didn't have any response in regards to our request for utilizing those funds. So the request is now being made to the commission to use those funds for the Belfair sewer. At our briefing, it was decided that it would only be utilized for the year of 2016, and that going forward, we would ask again for usage of those funds in 17, 18, and probably going into the future for at least the next couple of years.
Any questions for Mr. Pinter?
How much do we collect in this .09 money? And just for the public's benefit, I was, I think it was 2003, I was chair of the Senate Economic Development Committee, and Senator Mulliken and from Eastern Washington and I worked on this allocation. So it's a portion of the state sales taxes that we collect in the rural counties, and I think there's 32 counties that collect these funds. 7 do not. 7 of the larger counties like King, Pierce, and Homish. So it's state sales taxes that's collected and that is collected but kept by the county. And how much in total do we are we allocated by? It's by
It
sales
varies
tax.
annually, anywhere between $575,000 to $650,000.
Okay, so this is 75-80% of all that we are
Correct.
could use for economic development infrastructure.
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you. Ms. McGee, you had a question?
Yes, I did. If I'm understanding this correctly, you are considering taking $450,000 out of the county's allocation of the county's sales tax to pay for the Belfair sewer. Whatever you want
Well,
to call it.
it's a rebate of the state portion of the sales, 0.09% of the state portion of the sales tax
But
collected.
to me, it's still taking taxpayers' money from all over the county to pay for something in one district. And so I question the validity of the county commissioners using taxpayers' money, sales tax. Every citizen in the county that buys something pays sales tax to pay for something that was created by the commissioners to start with. Am I right, Commissioner Sheldon, on that?
So the sales tax, there is a sales tax revenue that comes as a result of the county charging for sales taxes on purchases made in the county.
Correct.
These are rebates coming, when those sales taxes are charged, a portion of that goes to the state.
Where does it,
So this is that portion which the state refunds back to rural counties, 32 I believe is correct, and it's the .09 portion of those dollars. So yes, these are sales tax dollars that come via the state in a rebate or refund back to the counties. So it's not part of the sales tax that the county collects, but rather that portion which the state rebates.
but I
It is
understand. But it's
sales
still
tax
using
dollars.
taxpayers' money to pay for something that was created by the county commission.
Okay, well,
to
that
start with.
sounds like something
Yeah.
that we need to talk about for a testimony, so,
I'm sorry.
okay.
No, but it helps clarify.
I understand.
Your question helps clarify the dollars, because the state collects 6%, I think, Madam Treasurer, correct? 6% sales tax? But in the rural counties, those 32 rural counties, they really only collect 5.91%. Because we get to keep 0.09% of that 6% that's collected by the state. But it has to be used for infrastructure projects. But you're right, the majority of it has been going to the Belfair sewer.
But it does have to be used for infrastructure projects.
Yes.
That promote economic development.
So it would eliminate any other project that you might do, like renovation of the courthouse
Or
Ms. McGee, currently,
recreational parks or that kind of thing.
Ms. McGee, we currently also pay for the Shelton sewer, a certain amount of money. It's been set up for the last, how many, almost 8 years, 10 years? It pays for that as 20, yeah, it pays for that as well. There's other things, the Oakland Bay Clean Water District for a while that paid that. And this is a economic development infrastructure project. Whether anybody likes that or not, if I had my way, it would never have been built, but we'll have that as part of the testimony, but it is what it is.
I remember you inputting it.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Watson, is this a question or is this testimony?
I just have a question for Frank. If the Senate of the House and the governor decide to take that portion that you give back to the county and pay for the schools, how does that fit in?
Well, I think I can answer that. There will be, again, an effort in the legislature to use that money for schools, because that'll be the biggest issue facing the legislature today in the Supreme Court and next session. So, but much of these dollars have been bonded by the counties. So that's the argument that says, no, we can't take it away because you've already committed to a 25-year bond, for example. Some of the counties, like Lewis County, have used their funds, this .09 money, to bond for larger projects, roads, bridges, water projects. So there'll be an argument about it, but any legislature can change what another legislature has done. So we'll see.
Thank you.
Question?
Just a question. The verbiage is that it's going to project-related debt service. Does that mean it's strictly the interest on
Interest
the
and
money
principal.
that we've
Interest
borrowed?
and principal, yes.
Interest and principal. Okay, that answers my question.
If there are no further questions, I'll open the floor for testimony. Thank you. Anybody like to testify on item 8.3?
Well,
Come on.
I'll start off if I could, Madam Chair. I'm not going to vote for this because, well, I worked very hard in the legislature for this provision and the change in state law so counties have an opportunity to find money for economic development. I also went to the legislature 2 years ago and found $1.5 million that the legislature appropriated for the Belfair sewer. And the Belfair wastewater project is an expensive project, I know that. But I think that the ratepayers, the users of that facility, should pay more than they're paying now. Their rates have not gone up. Now, if you are connected to the sewer in North Bay, if you're at Lakeland Village, your rates go up every year depending on inflation and consumer price index. So, while I think there is a need for some county economic development funds, we've been doing that for quite a few years. We found it $1.5 million in appropriation, as well for for Belfair, but as well for $1.5 million for the Shelton system as well. But their rates have increased too. So I think it's time with our utilities to ask the ratepayers, those that are receiving the service, those that are seeing assessed value for their property jump because they have sewer available. If you're Taco Time out there on the sewer line, if you're the Safeway, if you're those businesses that are utilizing that service, I think you should pay more, and we should not keep their rates the same, which we've done since the beginning of the system. So that's my objection to this, and hopefully we will really take a look as a county at our utilities, because I think they're a mess. I really do. I think that we haven't spent time And Jerry Hoth, our new Director of Public Works, I think is doing a great job of looking at where we are with these facilities. We talked last month about the water systems that don't even have any meters. We've had 10 years to install meters. We don't have any meters installed yet, and our deadline for that is 2017. Thank you.
There's nobody that would like, in the audience would like to testify on this issue?
Got one more question for Tim. Is that the A and B water system that you're talking about?
Yes, Class A systems, which are more than
Thank
15
you.
connections.
And I will close the public testimony and move to commissioner deliberation.
Madam
So
Chair.
you made your statement. You have
Yeah.
a statement you'd like to make?
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Madam Chair, and for the audience to understand, and I know it comes off as though I'm just pro-Belfair, but it's a lot more difficult than that. First of all, this 09 fund has been being paid for infrastructure well before I ever thought about it or even came here. This particular system should never have been built, but it has been built. And I had no say in it, and neither did anybody in Belfair have a say in it. There was a comment made that property values jumped because of it. That ain't true. That flat ain't true. Those property values have not jumped because of it, not at all. If anything, we've had a lot of downgrading of our property values up there in the north end, especially on the one side because of the moratorium, because it hasn't been sewered, and this county has kept them from being able to subdivide or build or anything else because of agreements that were made in order to create a sewer system that is so large it crushes a community. Now, one thing to understand about Belfair, when we're paying all of our taxes and our sales taxes and everything else, the city of Shelton keeps theirs, okay? They have their sales tax and the county has theirs. The things that help pay for the sheriff's department and all the other things that we bring money from, Belfair, whether we like it or not, is the cash cow. That's where it comes from. And if Belfair collapses, all of Mason County is going to have to find the money to do something about it. To give you an example, just in this one issue alone, if you look at QFC currently has, I think it's 33, between 31 and 33 ERUs, equivalent residential units. If we were to spread this out amongst just the people in Belfair, again, who had nothing to do with this, made no decision, the past commission made all these decisions and put this on a community that is way too small to handle it. But if we did, those current customers that we have, QFC would be paying close to $80,000 a year, just by making this up, $80,000 a year for their sewer. In Kitsap County, QFC, using the same amount of ERUs because they have more gallons per ERU, everything else, because we really hurt our communities with the ERU rate that we gave it. We'd be paying $12,000. Now let me tell you, that's a lot of bread. And those costs are shared by everybody there. But the worst part is if they were to close, if you were to raise the price to the point to where they can no longer survive, that cost disappears too. That $200,000 now has to be spread over the other 285 customers that are left on that system. Although I agree it would be nice if we didn't have these debts to have to put on it, but the system was created that runs close to $1 million backwards a year. And it's not the city of Belfair, because the city of Belfair does not exist. It is only the county of Mason. Mason County wrote all the agreements, Mason County signed all the loans, took on all the grants and the debts. Belfair had no options at all. They're represented by this commission, the commission that represented them, that put them in this position. And too much burden, and it breaks. Where are you going to get your revenue then? From Allen? From Hoodsport? I'm telling you, it does have an effect. This is a Mason County problem, even though I wish it wasn't. I wish we never had to have dealt with it. It was way too big for that tiny little community. But this is the reality we have. $450,000 out of the 09 funds is actually common. It's been being spent that way for a while. This is not new for this year. As I said, we have an agreement where we've been taking care of the Shelton sewer system, a part of that for some of their bonds that they have going out. And there's been a lot of other things that go over the years. I did work real hard and put together a plan. We haven't got it finalized yet. If we do, then this one will be solvent at least, because currently it's not solvent. We've been dealing with findings. We finally had the findings released, but if we continue to get findings because we don't have a solvent plan and we can't raise the price to almost $400 per household per year, then our interest rates go up for our bonds and stuff, and the bonds we already have. So I don't like it, but it is what it is, and absent of doing something for this now, what else are you gonna do? There's no other option. I just wish the past commission had not made the mistakes they made to put such a huge burden on such a small area.
I worked for about 5 or 6 years trying to identify funding sources for infrastructure that promotes economic development. That was my career. The .09 was one of them. The real estate excise tax was one of them. Worked really hard to make sure that there was a funding source for local community, for local governments to pay for the big ticket items that will support growth and economic development. And now in the last month, there's been a question whether or not the real estate excise tax and now whether the .09 monies are appropriate funding sources for the big ticket items of sewer, water, roads that support economic development. I'm kind of confused why that's even a question. This is a policy item that has been in the state legislative, our RCW, for a very long time, with the understanding that to ask one developer to build an entire sewer plant so that he can build 30 homes isn't going to happen. We take .09 money and pay for a sewer line that serves the Washington State Patrol and the prison. I don't see the entire community being served there either. It's just the way we had identified, this is how you pay for some of these items that they're big ticket items that government buys and government builds, like sewers, like roads. And so I'm kind of perplexed as to why this is now considered an inappropriate use of the funds when it's in the RCW. It was in all of the discussions as we went to testify at the state legislature. We said, please support keeping this type of funding available for local governments. And as a county commissioner, it is with full, clear conscience that I say yes, $450,000 should go to a sewer system that will support an urban growth area of Mason County where we anticipate and expect and will encourage growth to happen in support of our Growth Management Act, in support of this is what Washington State says we will do. We will have our infrastructure in place before the growth gets there, and it will encourage the growth in certain areas through the availability of infrastructure paid for by .09 funds, paid for by the people who buy and sell houses through the real estate excise tax. I got to tell you, I'm just perplexed that there's a question that this would even be an appropriate use, especially because we had already set the track record on that, number one, and number two, that's what the legislature says this money's for. So I am in support of item 8.3, as I have been since 2005. So.
Well, Madam Chair, I began this discussion by saying that I think the ratepayers of the Belfair wastewater system should pay more. I just don't understand, if I was living in Lakeland Village, or I was living in Russellwood, or especially Lakeland Village, as I see my rates go up every month, why does Belfair always remain constant? I just don't think that's possible in the real world. Commissioner Netherland, you mentioned QFC. I think QFC probably had a pretty darn good Labor Day weekend. The grocery business in Mason County, when we get to these holiday weekends, is amazing. And the fact that you said we should never have built the sewer, should never have been built. If we did not have a sewer system there, you wouldn't have any businesses. You can't exist with, Belfair is built on a swamp. In the winter, you dig a foot down, you're going to hit groundwater. So previous commission had to build a sewer, and it was an issue of water quality for Hood Canal. There was a lot of issues, and we can revisit the past over and over, but Belfair definitely needs a sewer. But the users, I believe, should have some incremental increases, just like everyone else in this county, when it comes to the cost of providing utilities to businesses, residential, and to the public. So That's my objection.
Well, Commissioner, you're objecting to the rates and not to the payment of a debt service, and I think this is an inappropriate place to put that. If you want to see a rate increase for the Belfair Sewer, then you simply create that as an item for discussion in a work session,
Well,
and then
I've-
bring it forward as
I've-
an ordinance to raise the
I've
rates. I
con-
don't understand where a
I've
rate
continued-
increase would be something where you would take that issue and put it towards the debt service.
Each time I suggest that we combine our utilities, and each of those utilities has the same rate, but a differing capital cost, I come up against a stone wall. So you two have your
I have never
ideas.
objected to combining any of the utilities. In fact, I would support that 100%.
And we have.
I have supported that 100%.
You have? Oh,
It
I-
seems to me if you want to see a rate increase for Belfair Sewer, then that would be a separate item. It wouldn't be
I think
holding
it
hostage
should
the
ha-
fact that we owe a debt.
All
We
right.
owe on our debt.
Well, what would be wrong with this item then? I would move that,
Well, there's still
I-
deliberation if you don't mind, Commissioner.
all right, I'll wait till we have a chance for a motion. I'll make a particular motion and see if you would support that.
Thank you. Madam Chairman?
Please.
Okay, a couple of clarifications. QFC, Safeway. Let's see. McDonald's, West Bay, all the businesses, Subway, all the businesses down the line, they were there before the sewer was. So that statement that you wouldn't have it was not accurate, not even close to accurate. They all existed before the sewer. The only building we've had since the sewer is the Taco Bell, and what else?
Cut right out of the auto store.
And
No, that was,
and Tuck-
yeah, the auto store, but the main point is Belfair still existed, Belfair was still there, and all the businesses were doing just fine. And to give you an idea that when it comes to cost, things do get passed on. If you go right here and go shopping for, I know nobody else likes these things but me, but I like those little Vienna sausages. A Vienna sausage here is 55 cents a can. It's $1.98 in Belfair. Why do you think that is? It's not just because they can fleece you. They have costs that they have to come up with. And you see that a lot with the different things that we buy out there. That's just the way it is. And so although they may have had a good weekend, it still does, every place has a good weekend, but they still have to come up with their bottom line. And as for the rate of $98 a month, are you ready for this one?
Yeah.
We didn't set it, Commissioner, you did.
But that didn't mean it had to stay.
You have
Stay
never brought
forever.
anything forward. I worked 100 hours on trying to put together a plan to save this county from that catastrophe and learn how to do it, because I didn't know. I had to learn how to do it. We got it finally to where the state auditor at least was pulling their findings on us, because the whole time you were saying it's okay to keep having findings. Commissioner, you didn't bring anything forward. I'd love to see anything you want to bring. Please bring something forward.
I
so
have
we can do something.
over and over, I said you need to reduce the size of the Belfair UGA because you can't afford to sewer the entire UGA.
That doesn't help the cost of the sewer.
Commissioner, how many ERUs does Taco Bell have?
I don't know. I believe it's 3 or 4.
3 or 4. So a single-family residence pays $98, but Taco Bell, if they have 4, they're going to pay $400.
Again, Commissioner, that's your rate.
That's
You set that up. I wasn't here.
You know, things aren't just set in stone that if you don't like them, they've been set in stone. If you like them, they were set in stone and can't ever be changed. What I'm saying is you need to take a look at all your utilities and make it fair for everyone.
I look forward to you bringing that forward, Commissioner, so we can.
All right, well, I'll continue to try to bring it forward. I haven't had any luck yet, just like I haven't had any luck getting you to deal with the Historical Society. These big issues, you can't ignore them. You two have conversations, I know, we've seen the text messages where you go back and text back and forth. That's not appropriate, and I'm just...
He was telling me he's very sorry that my father died.
No, I'm not bringing up...
You're implying something, Commissioner.
I'm not implying anything. I'm saying that
maybe
you two have
stick to the item
you
of
work
item
together,
8.3.
you text message
Will you
back and
please move to
forth,
the item 8.3?
and it's very difficult to make a point when you two have decided, I believe, before you get to a meeting, what will happen, what the outcome will be, how it will be addressed. So that's my
Commissioner,
opinion.
that
Because we
doesn't
attend
happen.
work sessions and we make those agreements in public.
No, I said when
When
two commissioners text back and forth,
Commissioner, we're currently
It
paying you
is-
$1,000 an
and
hour.
they communicate-
You don't even show up for work. If you
when-
showed up for
when
work, we'd be able to
individuals-
work with you.
when commissioners communicate outside of a public meeting or go to meetings that are not announced, it's a disservice to the public. So it's discouraging for me. I have to find a way to bring up some of these issues in our meetings so they're at least
Okay, so
realized by the
You have a
public.
potential motion to raise the rates of bill fare, is that what you'd like to do?
No, I would, if it's appropriate to make a motion, I would.
Please.
I would move to approve $250,000 for 2016 for the Belfair Sewer from the Rural County Sales and Use Tax Fund for the annual Phase 1 capital project-related debt service. Now, and if I might explain it, for $250,000, I think that's a reasonable amount of money. That would leave some money for other projects in Mason County for economic development. And then I would hope, and this is not part of my motion because it would be outside of the scope of the motion, but I think that we could take a look at raising this additional $200,000 through rate increases over time with the present users.
I have a question regarding that motion. So this is the 2016 debt service, which would need to be paid by December. So do you anticipate being able to raise rates in $200,000 in rates? Have you done the math to figure out how to raise $200,000 in more rate revenue between now and December?
I think it would be an exercise worth doing.
There's 286 customers, Commissioner.
And if we
And
didn't,
many of those customers
Where would we
are
find
very
them?
large businesses.
and where would we find the other $200,000
I think
if we couldn't do it through
I
rates?
think you need to take a look at your rate structure and make it affordable, more affordable for the residents and more appropriate for the larger businesses. If you're, as I give you the example, if you're Taco Time, I think you are creating much more sewage than a individual house, which contains about 3 people in Mason County, in Belfair area, probably 3.5 people per household. The amount of customers that you have, you're open 12, 14, 16 hours a day. You have restroom service for people that even come in and probably buy very little. I think it's worth looking at this issue. So I've made a motion and hope that there's a second to try to really delve into the issue of rate structure in Mason County for sewer.
I can't second that for number one. That's $200,000 of debt that we won't have a funding source to pay for in 3 months. And number two, we do have a discussion scheduled for the next 2 weeks regarding the Belfair financial plan and the look at the rates. And I think it's premature to go ahead and I think that that's the more appropriate place to make this discussion and these decisions regarding the rates. Commissioner, did you want a second? Do you have a motion?
Yes, Madam Chair, I move for the approval of item number 8.3.
I'll second. It's moved and second to approve to award $450,000 for 2016 for the Belfair Sewer from the Rural County Sales and Use Tax Fund .09 for the annual Phase 1 capital project-related debt service. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Or, I'm sorry, is there a nay?
No.
And motion carried. Item 8.4, approval to award the Mason County Historical Society of $5,000 from the Summer 2016 Heritage Grant to preserve Historical Forest Festival film on DVD for public viewing. Is Michael Sims here? Michael, would you please present this item?
Good morning, Commissioners. So we have here I'm staff for the Historic Preservation Commission, and we have a grant cycle twice a year to award money to eligible projects, and the Historical Society has proposed this project, and they want to preserve, they had a donation of quite a few, and they can speak to it in more detail than I can, but they've received a donation of quite a few historic Super 8 and 16 millimeter film, and I understand quite a bit of it has to do with the Forest Festival, and they want to digitize it. They have a contract, I guess, pending to do that, and then the resulting DVDs will be available for viewing at the museum. And the original film will be donated to the University of Washington.
Okay. Are there any questions of Michael?
I'm concerned of the wording, Mason County Forest Festival, because the collection of films that we have that we want to preserve are the DVD, or the old 8 and 16 millimeter films that belong to Dave James, who, right, and there's all kinds of logging films, that kind of thing, and I don't think, what's the title of their application?
I just think if we say preserve historical film,
Yeah.
or Forest Festival film and other, because there's a long list in the scope that it just incorporates more than what.
Right, and so I think I understand what the issue is, and, I was under the impression this was basically Forest Festival footage, but in the contract, Exhibit A, we actually have a list of exactly all the films that will be transferred, and there's also an understanding that some of them may be beyond the point of being transferred, and then the grant will be prorated based on which ones didn't get transferred. But so exactly what it is whether we want to call it, we want to modify the item 8.4, the name of that's fine. But we have in the contract exactly what the films will be.
I just didn't want us to get in a bind and have Forest Festival, because, so I don't know the wording.
I can change the motion.
Anything else?
That's it, thank you. Is there anybody who'd like to testify on item 8.4? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move for the approval to award Mason County Historical Society a $5,000 from the Summer 2016 Heritage Grant to preserve historical film on DVD for public viewing.
I'll second that motion, Madam Chair.
It's been moved and second to approve to award Mason County Historical Society $5,000 from the Summer 2016 Heritage Grant to preserve historical film on DVD for public viewing. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much, appreciate that.
This takes us to our public hearing. And Loretta, who will be presenting? Melissa, who'll be presenting this? Okay. Loretta Swanson, we have a public hearing, private line occupancy permit.
Oh, you guys, this is exciting, really?
Come on.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
So this is a public hearing to consider granting a private line occupant permit for the By Trust. And the location of this private line occupancy is way up towards the north end of the Mason-Jefferson line. And the purpose for this private line occupancy is to be able to run utilities underneath the county road, water line, power, cable, etc. So the services are on one side of the road, and they're reconstructing a residence or a beach cabin on the water side of the road. And all of the fees have been paid, it's been posted, and all of that good business, and we're here asking permission to execute this agreement.
Any questions for Loretta? Any questions from the audience? Thank you, Loretta. Is there anybody who would like to testify on this item? Hearing none, I will close public testimony and move to commissioner deliberations.
Well, Madam Chair, I assume it's a push under Triton Head Drive, right? And it's a county road, it's very small, very few residents along there, but it's a nice, very nice area. And they own the property on both sides of the road.
No further discussion. I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that the Board of County Commissioners approve the private line occupancy permit for a new utility crossing under Triton Head Drive at 120 North Triton Head Drive, parcels number 22406 -05 or -50-00011 for the Edward and Susan By Trust.
Madam Chair, I'll second the motion to approve this private line occupancy permit.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the private line occupancy permit for a new utility crossing under Triton Head Drive at 120 North Triton Head Drive, parcel number 22406-50-00011 for the Edward and Susan By Trust. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, motion carried. Thank you. That is our only public hearing today, so that moves us on to item number 10, our board reports and calendars. Please report any meetings that there will be a potential quorum or any reports from any boards where you represent the county. Who would like to begin?
I could start, Madam Chair, and just let you know I didn't have any meetings where outside the county here with any other commission members. I did have a conversation with DOT. I'm sorry that the Historical Society people left. I did have a conversation with Department of Transportation about property at the Matlock interchange that DOT owns, and they are not. It would not be. They say it would not be in their long-term interest to surplus that property, so that would not be available in the future. And I hope to have this next week, a meeting, I haven't got it set up yet for time, with the Skokomish tribe, and also a meeting which I haven't got the time and place yet with Roglands Construction. And Roglands is on Highway 101 through the reservation, is adding extending a left turn lane there, and they haven't, they've begun that project, but I haven't got a meeting time yet for you. Yep.
Madam Chair, going back a little ways, we did attend a Mason Transit Authority Board budget workshop together, someone put that out. I attended a Port of Grapeview meeting, met with Jerry Houth in regards to the sewer and the different things that we can do and what we need to do to help that situation with North Bay, as well as Russellwood and Belfairs. Went to Harsting Island Farmers Market, met with a couple of people later in regards to Fudge Point. They're being told now that they've moved up the program to do some work on it. I hadn't heard that.
I'm on their mailing list, and I had not heard that as well, so
Okay.
I take that
Good,
into
because I told them I would look into it further, because I hadn't heard any of that stuff, but this is what they had.
Can I ask you a question?
Please.
You say they, or are you talking about the state parks?
No, some of the residents that were there is who I was talking to.
Okay.
But they said that the state parks have moved up the agenda to start construction sooner, much sooner on Fudge Point. And I have not, I told them I hadn't even heard or seen anything of that, and I'll look into it to find out more. But they're under the belief that they've moved it way up on their program list.
Uh-huh.
Gentlemen, do you recall whether they had actually approved the final design for what they'll do with that park?
Not that I've
I
seen.
don't recall that it even came out.
They approved the final what?
Design and usage?
I do believe that they did, yes, but it was on a 20-year plan. From what I had heard, they did have that meeting. It was in Seattle.
Okay.
And push it forward. Let's see, did St. David's and working to feed the homeless, a community event for Article 5 of the Constitution. The Allen Community Association had a meeting on the Metropolitan Parks District, but invited a guy from the Conservation District, and that didn't, of course, work. The guy had no clue. So I ended up giving the brief discussion that I could on what I knew about the project, but separating out the county from it very clearly. But poor Kevin had no clue what to do about that, so he gave a presentation on the Conservation
Kevin
District. Yeah. He was shocked. It was, let's see, Women's Republican had a candidate night. I met with Marilyn Vogler. I also had the Left Board this morning. I met with Diedrich for some candidate interviews. EDC's having their business retention meeting, then also a regulatory subcommittee meeting. Group of people, Allen Belfair Community Group for Businesses, trying to get together on some of their local issues that they have and combine their efforts. Hood Canal Lodge is having a meeting this week, then the regular meeting of the Economic Development Council. After hours for Habitat for Humanity, Trails and Luck has a potluck. West Sound Alliance has a meeting, and I think we also have a legislative steering committee for WASAC that has I think it's a webinar on that Friday. This next Friday, I think. I'll have to double check that, because I didn't have anything, but I remember reading
Coming
something.
up,
Yes, it's next Friday.
the 9th.
I believe so. Legal Women Voters have their meeting, then brings us back for briefings, and then to our regular meetings again.
Okay. Let's see, following last commission's meeting, we had the Mason Transit Authority Budget Workshop. I had an entrance interview with the auditors for the Mason Transit Authority. I had a meeting of the Mason Matters. Attended the ribbon cutting for the Triage Center in Olympia, and very happy to announce that the Thurston Mason Behavioral Health Association received a $900,000+ grant to open a triage center here in Mason County from the Department of Commerce. It was incorrectly said in the news release from Commerce that it was $2 million. Got too excited about that one, and then not sure how they could put out a news release with the wrong number. The Lewis Mason Thurston Area Agency on Aging meeting, Green Diamond after hours of Shelton Mason County Chamber of Commerce. I had an opportunity to spend an entire day visiting the Skokomish River Valley project for the general investigation study of the Army Corps of Engineers, and that was very helpful, and I thank very much the Conservation District for taking the time to help me better understand the projects. And now the outstanding controversial item will be what to do about the road at the dips. There is a feasibility work going on right now about, what can happen to prevent flooding, protect that road for ingress and egress in and out of the valley. Look forward to seeing what some of the recommendations will come out of that. Had the meeting of the law library. We had our briefings last Monday. I also did a tour of the Huya River Bridge project that was the county's named as a partner on, but the Hood Canal Salmon Enhancement Group is putting an application in for a feasibility study regarding trying to raise that roadway and open up the estuary there. I will be meeting with Jerry Houth, Public Works, regarding Belfair financing, Lynn Longing of the EDC, regarding some potential code opportunities to help economic development, the Oakland Bay Clean Water District meeting, and then I'll be making a tour of some areas of the Wild Olympics proposal for putting away in scenic rivers. And then the Community Action Council is having their 50th anniversary, and then the Behavioral Health Organization work session. That brings us back to our commission briefings on the 19th, and I potentially will be attending the September 9th WASAC Legislative Steering Committee. Is there anything else?
Yeah,
to
Madam
report?
Chair, if I could ask you a question or two. So you mentioned the Tahuya River Bridge.
Yes.
The Hood Canal Salmon Enhancement Group is looking for money, and the county is named as a partner?
They're named as yes, they are named as a partner, which was to have been part of a briefing from us.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had asked for a tour separately so I could understand the project better, and from what I understand, it will be coming forward to us as a briefing item.
Well, I attended the briefing, and I don't remember agreeing to the county being a partner. It's going to be a $25-30 million job.
10 million is what I had heard, yes.
10 million?
Yeah.
Well, we had previous estimates of 25
Did you?
million.
Okay.
So I'd be real interested in knowing how the county is going to be a partner in that kind of project. and what our involvement would be or commitment.
Right, and so in the briefing, I believe that was the Monday I was out. So I did not hear the presentation on that or the address, or I don't recall, but I attended we had the tour with Loretta Swanson and Sarah Grimes, I believe is their last name, our engineer, and apparently they will be the partnership for the feasibility grant will be their input on any of the potential redesign proposals. So basically, they're looking for input regarding, what could or could not happen, what would need to happen for the bridge, and so it'll be on a consulting, or at least input, and not any dollar amount, but it's just on the feasibility piece.
Well, it scares me if we're considered a partner, because we have other projects. You mentioned the trip that you took up into the National Forest and with the SWAT team. That project at the dips is very important. I mean, that's going to take county money, and to relocate that road along the hillside or to build some kind of causeway, I think is a much higher priority than replacing an existing bridge, and the benefits are unknown as to fish benefits.
I agree.
So that's...
I agree, it's all
that
function of
disturbs me.
prioritization.
So then can I ask you another question about the announcement or news release for $900,000 and
900 plus.
$900,000 plus from the Department of Commerce for a facility here for mental health
It's called the triage center.
triage center.
Correct.
So what is the responsibility of the county? Are there matching funds that are required?
There are no matching funds required. This would be a building that would be under the ownership of the Thurston Mason Behavioral Health Organization.
And who would be responsible for operation and maintenance?
The Thurston Mason Behavioral Health Organization.
Is there a location?
There is a potential location of the PUD building downtown Shelton,
Wow.
but that has not been, a location does not need to be identified until the grants, the contract for the monies is let.
And what would be the public process for citing this facility? Is it in our capital facility plan?
I don't know if the Behavioral Health Organization, just as the Regional Support Network, did any of those facilities go into the county capital facilities plan?
Well, we don't have a county updated facility plan.
Correct, but with the Regional Support Network, it's been in existence, and Thurston and Mason County have been partners on that, and they've built a number of facilities. In fact, this triage center that I went to the ribbon cutting was a function of that. Had it been in the county capital facilities plan?
It was not in the county.
Okay.
That's at Montman Industrial Park.
Okay.
In Thurston, in Tumwater. I think it's in the city of Tumwater.
Okay. So I guess that's a good question. If these regional facilities that are, for instance, what other facility? We have regional groups such as the Pac Mountain Workforce Development Council.
But they're not buying a building.
Lewis Mason Thurston Area Agency on Aging has an office here.
A rented office.
Yeah.
But you're talking about buying a building down on Coda Street. We, the county, looked at that for some facilities at one time too. But what's the planning process? Where's the public going to be involved in this? Is there a plan yet, or just an announcement that we're getting money?
The plan for the public process or plan for the building itself?
Yeah, both. Where does the public get to weigh in or understand or learn about this project?
We will make opportunities for that.
We will make opportunities, okay. But the announcement's been made.
For the money, you can reject or accept the money. There's still a process involved in that.
But
it's an application.
I think there's, okay,
it's a grant application
there's
process.
So the grant, is the money awarded?
The
900,000 plus?
There has not been a contract with Commerce signed. It was an announcement that they accepted the grant application but reduced the amount of monies that was requested.
So the money will be awarded?
According to the news release from Commerce, yes. Obviously, there is, with any grant with Commerce,
Yeah.
you do have the contractual piece. And then because it was less than what was requested, then we have to go back to them with, okay, given the fact that it was only this amount of monies, this is what we will do, rather than what was in the grant application. And then there's that give and take.
And then the $900,000 plus, is that to purchase the PUD building?
Well, so that we have to go back and design what can be done, given the reduced amount of monies available. And we do have a behavioral health organization work session on Friday at 9 o'clock at the Thurston County Courthouse, if anybody in the public would like to attend and hear the discussion regarding
Okay,
this.
but is the money for a building, or is it for operation?
It'll be for the building and for the, no, this is the capital-only grant.
Capital, so it's for
I'm sorry,
a-
this is a capital-only grant.
It's for a building and infrastructure, parking, all that goes
Correct.
with it. And it's a secure facility?
It will be a secure facility that can also double as a voluntary facility for our mobile crisis response team.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Most
Thank
of
you.
these things are normally discussed at a briefing, when we show up for work and go to a briefing and do that. If we could go ahead and put further discussion of this onto a briefing, so,
I will do that.
Sure.
Just
Thank
heard, got an announcement of it on Friday, so.
no, thank you.
And the application for the grant monies, I believe, was also part of a briefing discussion. Okay, so that takes us to item number 11, other business, department heads, elected officials. We have outlasted them all. And so if there's no other business to come before us, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'd make the motion to adjourn, Madam Chair.
Second?
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.